Hello, my name is Greg, and I'd like to welcome you to the installation and configuration of GNS3 version 1.3.1. First, I'd like to shout out a thanks to all the people at GNS3 for fixing what I thought was a major bug regarding the platform for the C1700 and C2600 routers. If you watch my previous video for 1.3.0, I installed that and 0.8.7 in a dual installation configuration, just so that I could utilize those routers. But now everything's working in 1.3.1. The only difference that I do in the installation is that because this GNS3 distribution came out after Wireshark had updated their program, they had an older version in there, and if you install it from GNS3, the first time you run Wireshark, it will ask you to reinstall it. So what I did was I went ahead and installed it from the get-go, and that's this. The new version is, or I should say, as of this video, is 1.12.4. GNS3 had 1.12.1, as you'll see in a second. So go in and Google that and download that and install that, and then we'll get started on this. So I'm going to go ahead and start that right now. So from here, pretty much everything is next. I agree. I don't change anything in here like I did in the last video because we're doing a single installation, so everything's GNS3. One thing though, that because I went ahead and installed Wireshark, I uncheck that, and I also uncheck WinPCAP because that's part of the Wireshark installation. Everything else I leave checked. So go ahead and hit next. This is install. Go ahead and install the Solarwinds response time viewer. This takes a little bit longer than the actual GNS3 portion because it has to first download it and install it, and then as it's installing, it downloads something else. So you'll see that in a second. There is one glitch in this installation, and that's part of this Solarwinds response time viewer, and it's not really a glitch, it just seems like a glitch, as you'll see in a second. And right here, it's going to ask you for your email. I usually put GNS3, or at least for this video, at gns3.com. You could put your own. Then you go ahead and click next, accept, next, and hit next to this, and this is where the glitch is. It seems like it hangs and it shows up a not responding, and then eventually this will change to a new screen right here. You hit next, and then it starts downloading a few more things, or I should say installing a few more things. Once it gets to the GNS3 portion, it'll be a lot faster. This one seems to take the longest. Alright, hit finish to that, and GNS3 is off to the races. Alright, I usually close this. And there's our GNS3 icon. Go and hit next to complete. Right now, Solarwinds is offering this standard tool set for free. If you don't already have it, go and hit yes to this, and it'll take you to a website where you could download it after you register for it. It's a $200 value, and if you don't already have it, there's a lot of cool tools in there. So I recommend getting that if you don't already have it. I already have it, so I'll go and hit no, next, and we'll go and start GNS3. Once you start GNS3, it pops up with this welcome screen. If you are used to GNS3, you could check this and hit close. Most people that have used it know where GNS3 jungle is, and also there's a button down here too if you don't. There's a lot of good information and blogs in there that you can ask other users and the programmers any information that you might need, or any questions you might have regarding the program. So go ahead and hit close to that. It also pops up the web page, which is the GNS3 jungle. So I'll go ahead and minimize that for now. We don't have anything loaded, so we'll go ahead and hit cancel to this. If you're not familiar with GNS3, basically all of your devices are right here. So your routers, your switches, and your end devices, your security devices. And then if you click this will show all of your installed devices, as you'll see in a minute once we install some of those. This is for wiring it up, or adding a link between the devices. Over here is the main topology screen. Over here is the topology summary, which will show if a router is started or suspended or stopped, and basically it will show the color depending on whether it's started, suspended, or stopped. Down here, this gives information if there's a problem with Dynamips, or if you're saving your configs. Also down here, it'll say that if you're saving your project, it'll say the project and the path. So let's go ahead and configure this. So we're going to Edit Preferences and go to the General tab, and from here, let me just bring up, well, let me cancel that a sec. Let me bring up on my computer. I created on the C drive this GNS3 folder, which has all my projects in here, and then all my images right here. I keep my IOURC license file and the IOM VM out here. I keep all my iOSs in here, and for ASA I keep in the QEMU folder along with the flash file for the hard drive for the ASA. So I would recommend setting up on the C drive this folder along with this folder structure. The layouts is for super putty layouts if you want to save that. But again, put all your iOSs in iOS, your ASA and Flash in there, and you can put your IOM stuff there or in the iOS. It don't matter. The iOS also has the IOM or IOU images right here, which is your i86bi Linux L2 and L3 images. As you'll see in a minute, we'll go ahead and install those. I just wanted to show you this structure so you know that when I'm adding it in Edit Preferences General, that I'm adding that right here. If you don't create that, it will use this folder structure, and the reason I don't like this folder structure is if you uninstall GNS3 and reinstall, I'm not 100% whether that gets deleted, and just to be on the safe side, I like keeping it separate, and that way I know where it's at. So I'm going to browse to my C where I just showed you that, GNS3, and put my path to my projects, and then do the same thing for the images. And now we got that in there. Under style, I like charcoal, but you could choose any one you want. There's this one's classic, or excuse me, yeah, classic, and then legacy is like the old GNS3. I like charcoal because for me it's easier on my eyes. So I go ahead and hit apply to that. If you can use putty, but if you use putty, every device that you console into gets its own window. I like super putty better because it gives you tabs for each device instead of a window. If you have secure CRT, you can use that. It's more, I mean, it's $100 if you don't own it. So unless you want to fork that out, I would use super putty. So you hit set to that and apply. Go to topology view, and I usually check this draw a rectangle when an item is selected. Otherwise, it's hard to tell if it's selected sometimes. So that's done. So that's it for this general server. The only thing I check in here is this box. And that's because sometimes when you close GNS3, it tries to use this remote server address, which we're going to add right now. So if you hit add, that's the remote server IP address and port for VirtualBox, which you'll see in a minute when we load up the IOU devices. So you can go ahead and hit apply to that. I don't normally do anything to packet capture or VPCS. VPCS is a virtual PC, but it's kind of limited. You can only do pinging um, and trace routes, I believe. But that's about it. If you want to if you want to use something that's more versatile, I usually use a router. Um, uh, Basically, if you want to use a router as a PC, um, you you go into config T and change and set no IP routing, and that turns off routing. And then you want to set your IP default dash gateway to the gateway address of the gateway you're going to connect to, whether through a switch or directly to a router, and then type in the IP address on the interface that you connected to it. That's the to me, I like that a little more because it has more versatility. So I don't usually do anything there. So we'll go under Dynamips. I don't do anything in there. And let's go ahead and load an iOS router. So I hit new. Like I said, all 6 router platforms currently work. I'm going to load a 2600 so I could show that. Hit next. Name platform gets auto-populated by the image you load. Chassis is the only thing you normally change. You can change platform, but why? So chassis, I usually use this 2651XM. We'll hit next. Uh, this is the default RAM for this. If you're not sure what the RAM is, you can click this. It'll open up this Cisco feature navigator, and from there you click platform, iOS, and then select your platform and all the information regarding your image, or you can click image name, either one. And it will tell you once you get all the information filled out, it'll tell you what your RAM is that you need for that default RAM. So let me go ahead and minimize out of that. We'll go next. These are all your slots. Some of them allow you to change. This one doesn't. For slot 0, it only allows you to use that one. Slot 1 has other stuff that you can utilize. I don't usually use that for a baseline image. You can change that later. I usually do add WIC2T, which gives two serial interfaces. This is that idle PC finder I was telling you about. Basically what this does is, let me go and click it. This is what you want to do. Um, I usually also open up Task Manager under Performance tab to watch this. Basically what it's doing is it's looking for the very best performance that it can utilize for your CPU. And it does that by finding an address um, for your cores, to find out what's the very best one. And once it does, you'll see this drop down like that, and then this pops up, and that's the address that it found to be the best. So that's the way you want to do idle PC. I'll show you in a minute where you don't want to do it. So let's go ahead and hit OK to that and finish to that. I'm not going to show you any other routers because pretty much once you've seen one, you've seen them all. So hit apply to that. Now we go to, let's go ahead and install the IOU devices. So right here you want to add your license. Again, that was in the C, GNS3 images, and that's this IOURC license file. So you go ahead and hit apply to that. From there, we got to go into VirtualBox, and in VirtualBox, we got to load up that VM. So basically, you go to Import Appliance, you browse to where it's at, and that's at C GNS3 images root folder. And you want to make sure you get this GNS3 IOU VM 1.3.1 file. That's the latest one, and you get that from SourceForge. If you Google that file, you'll find it, or you can look at the bottom of the download page on GNS3 Jungle. It will show it there too. So you go ahead and hit open. Go next. Leave all this alone. Hit import. It imports it into VirtualBox, and then we'll start it. So there it is. So we'll go and start it. And the only thing you got to do is click this change network settings. This gets auto-populated with all your NIC information. You hit OK, and then it starts the VM. And the only thing I do here is I uncheck, or I click this X right there and wait for it to load. Now sometimes you'll see that it will load up this message without an IP address before this 8000. That's that remote server that we loaded earlier, and I'll show you that IP in a minute. This plus that IP is what you got to put in your browser, and you'll see that in a second. So for now, you want to minimize when you load these. When you load the IOM devices, these have to be up and running. So you minimize these, and we'll do that right now. So let's go to our browser, and let's go. So this is the IP address, or this is the information you got to type in to your browser. It's 192.168.56.101 colon 8000/upload. And once you hit that, this comes up. And from there, you want to upload your license file. So you click this IOU license and browse to your image folder. You want to go back up here to where your IOURC file is. That's your license file, and we upload it. There it is. So now it changed to IOU. We'll go back into iOS's, and let's upload the L2 first. And once it comes up, I'll copy that. Okay, I'll show you why in a minute. So right click, copy. Let's browse, go to L3, open, and upload that one as well. Well, the L3 takes a little longer because it's a bigger file. And there it is. So now we go back to GNS3 and we go into IOU devices and we go new, next, okay. And right here on type is our types. So we got L2. I'm going to load that first. This IOU image is where you paste that path that I just copied. The browse is supposed to go to it, but I don't think it works because it's in a VM. So anyways, I name this IOU underscore switch because it's a switch, and finish. And let's add a router. So we'll go next, okay, L3, go back to our browser, copy the L3 line, go back to GNS3, paste that in, type IOU underscore router. That could be anything you want to name it. I just name it that so it's easier to distinguish, as you'll see in a minute. And we'll go ahead and hit apply to that. Now let's install the ASA. And to do that, you go new, go to this ASA 8.4.2. We'll hit next to that, ASA, next, next. And then we're going to browse to our initial RAM disk and kernel images. This is our RAM disk. Here's our kernel. And we hit finish. And then from there, we have to go edit, go into advanced settings, uncheck this box. That's that CPU throttling. I usually uncheck that. Go into the hard drive section and add the hard drive, and that's this flash file. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but you do need to create this flash with QEMU. If you Google ASA QEMU flash, there's plenty of YouTube sites out there that tell you how to create that. And that's within GNS3. So you go ahead and hit OK to that and OK here. And now we have everything loaded. So we'll go ahead and hit OK to that. And sometimes if you load stuff into GNS3, sometimes it will crash if you don't if you try to load it right after configuring it. So I usually close out of GNS3, so we might as well close out of this. We don't need this anymore. Close out of that, and let's go ahead and reopen GNS3. So earlier, so I'm going to cancel this. Earlier I mentioned that there's a place where you don't want to do that PC idle, or excuse me, idle PC. So let's drag this. This is that 2600 router we installed, and I'll show you in a second. Where you don't want to do it is right here. You don't want to click that. If you do that, it will work, but it won't save the config into the edit preferences. When you come in and go back into the router and go into edit, go to advanced, this will be blank if you do it from there. So that's not the way to do it. You want to do it as you add it as a new device, and that's the only way that it works. So let's go ahead and start that real quick, and then we'll start this console. That's the console button right there to start Super Putty. And now it's booting up. Okay. So one other place I make a change to a configuration is for Super Putty itself, and that's under Tools, Options, and this is only if you want to make changes to these options. You have to set the that putty location to this C:\program files /GNS3 folder. If you don't do that, and just leave it as putty, it won't save any of your super putty options. The other thing is that's requires this settings folder, which is under computer, C, go down to program files, go down to GNS3, select that, and hit OK. From there, you can make modifications to these options. And one of the things I do is restrict floating windows. If you don't, these tabs can accidentally get disengaged, and you'll have a floating putty window. You can put it back over the tab and add it back in place, but it's easier if you just check that. Then I don't usually do anything under shortcuts because you can, but you want to make sure it doesn't conflict with anything that, like any keys. So I would do like keyboard combos that aren't in use. Otherwise, it could conflict. Under advanced, I'd use this restore window size and location and hit OK. That saves the super putty settings. So now that this router's up and running, we'll go ahead and close that. So that's how iOS router gets loaded. Go ahead and delete this. As you see, it's got the little dashes around it. So I hit yes. That showed that it was selected. So next we'll load the iOS or IOU router and an IOU switch. And we'll go ahead and start that and hit super putty. And there we go. As you can see, it's Linux. And you scroll up, you'll see that there's 8 Ethernet interfaces and 8 serial for the router, and there are 16 Ethernet interfaces for the switch. Now you can modify that if you go into configure on either one and go into network, and you could modify that right here, but that's the default. So we'll go and leave that there. So that's pretty much how those get loaded. Go ahead and hit yes to that. And the last but not least is the ASA. We'll go and load that and get super putty going. Now, I will say I'm not going to show you, number one, how to load keys, because keys and iOS's, as well as any licenses, Cisco wants you to get them from them. So I recommend contacting Cisco on how to procure those from them. If you do have routers laying around that have the images, you can use those images if they match the platforms that GNS3 currently has. Otherwise, you got to get them from Cisco. And if you're a shady kind of guy, you can get it from Google, but you're not going to be legal, so I wouldn't recommend that. So that's pretty much it on loading the ASA. Once you do load your keys, I will say this will change to active, and these will say enabled on some of them, depending on the key you have. Right now, they're all zeros because there's no key loaded. As far as that, as logging into it, it's the same as similar as a router. You enable, and then no password. And basically from here you can see your flash if you do a dir. And basically you can do a copy, run start, and then do a copy, start flash, and then do a dir again. You'll see that it saved it into there. That's how you can save things to your flash. What I recommend for loading, once you got your keys from Cisco, load them up by going into config T and pasting them into there. then confirm them, and then once they're loaded, do a copy run start and reload the ASA, and it will load up the keys. That takes about 15-20 minutes. Once it does, all those features I showed you up above will change to enabled. Um, I recommend, if you're going to use this ASA, because it doesn't get saved automatically once you load it into an ASA. What I would do is save an ASA into a project called ASA with keys loaded or something like that. Um, load your load your ASA up and load your keys the way I just described. Once you have done that, save your project and use that as a template for creating other projects. So what I would do is, after you save that project, close out of it, copy it somewhere else, or zip it up or copy it somewhere else, and that way it doesn't accidentally get overwritten. And then open it up when you start a security project, save that as a different project so you have an ASA in the project that has keys loaded, and then add in your other devices. Otherwise, your keys go away. They don't stay unless you save the project. So just keep that in mind. So, anyways, that's it. That's all I got to show you on installing and configuring GNS3. I hope this has been informative. And if so, please comment down below and let me know if you have any questions. Other than that, have fun with GNS3 and take care. Bye.